I never thought the color of my skin would make strangers treat me like a criminal at 30,000 feet, but on that morning, it did. Before we continue, if you're watching for the first time, Elliot Stories welcomes you with a warm hug. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and tell us the city you're watching from. The day started beautifully. My wife, Naomi, and I had saved up for months to take this trip. It wasn't just any trip, it was our first vacation after years of grinding non-stop. She's a lawyer, fierce and brilliant, and I'm an aviation compliance officer with the Federal Aviation Administration. That means, ironically, I help keep airlines accountable to the very laws that protect passengers. But that morning, none of that mattered. To the crew who sized us up, we were just a black couple who didn't look like we belonged in first class. We were dressed sharp, Naomi in her mustard yellow suit, me in my freshly pressed royal blue blazer. We weren't trying to impress anyone, just to honor the moment. I remember the smell of jet fuel in the air, the cool morning breeze brushing against my face, the shine of the private jet on the tarmac like a silver arrow. We handed our tickets to the gate agent with smiles. That smile didn't last long. "Excuse me," the agent's voice was clipped. "This line is for first class only." I frowned. "Yes, we know. These are our tickets." She took them, looked at us, and then scanned them again as if her machine must have made a mistake. "Sir, ma'am, I think you need to wait for economy boarding." Naomi's jaw tightened. I could see the fire in her eyes, the kind she usually reserved for the courtroom. "Are you suggesting we can't afford the seats we paid for?" The agent blinked. "No, of course not, but..." "But what?" Naomi's voice cut sharper than glass. "Do you ask every couple in this line to prove they belong here? Or just the ones with skin like ours?" People behind us shuffled uncomfortably. I felt the heat rising to my ears. My instinct was to keep calm. My training taught me to observe, document, control my emotions. But inside, humiliation spread like wildfire. We were finally allowed to board, but the humiliation didn't stop. The flight attendant at the door gave us the kind of smile that wasn't a smile at all. It was that tight, forced expression you wear when you're doing something you think you'll get away with. "Sir, ma'am, first class is this way," she gestured, then stopped us suddenly, blocking our path with her arm. "Actually, there's been a change. We'll need you to wait." "Wait for what?" I asked. "For confirmation." I glanced around. The other first-class passengers, mostly white, mostly older, were sipping champagne, settling into wide leather seats. Not one of them had been stopped. That was the moment Naomi squeezed my hand so tightly it hurt. She whispered, "This is wrong, Daniel. Don't let them do this." And then, like salt in an open wound, the captain himself appeared. A tall, sharp-jawed man with a polished white cap and the kind of authority that silences a room without effort. He looked us up and down, and with a dismissive wave of his hand, said, "Not today. You two will need to step aside." And then, he raised his palm like a stop sign in our faces. My blood boiled. He had no idea who I was, what power I carried in my pocket with my FAA badge. But I said nothing. Because in that moment, I wasn't an official. I was just a man, embarrassed, angry, and humiliated in front of my wife. That humiliation burned into me as Naomi's nails dug into my palm. I could see she wanted me to explode, to lash out, to fight. But all I could think was, not yet. Not like this. The captain leaned closer, his voice dripping with arrogance. "If you make a scene, you'll be escorted out of here. Understood?" I swallowed hard, staring at the reflection of my own anger in his aviator sunglasses. And that was the exact moment I knew this story wasn't going to end the way they thought. The silence between Naomi and me as we stood there felt like an entire courtroom trial. Except this time, she wasn't the one cross-examining someone. She was watching me, silently asking, "What will you do?" The cabin smelled faintly of leather and expensive cologne. Passengers glanced at us like we were trespassers. One man actually chuckled under his breath. That chuckle, God, that chuckle, still rings in my ears. Naomi spoke up again, her voice trembling but fierce. "Show us in your policy where it says black passengers can't sit in first class." The captain stiffened. "No one said that." Your actions scream it loud enough. I pulled out my phone, trying to keep steady hands. Sir, I said carefully, are you denying us boarding in the seats we paid for? His jaw clenched. I'm denying you disruption. Click. The sound of my phone's record button. The flight attendant gasped. You can't record here, she said quickly. I can record unlawful discrimination, I replied. The captain's face turned red, and for the first time, I saw a crack in his confidence. He wasn't just annoyed anymore. He was nervous. He didn't know who we were. He didn't know what strings we could pull. Naomi leaned in, whispering, "Show him. Daniel, show him who you are." My heart pounded. A secret I hadn't shared yet with her was burning on my tongue. She knew I worked with airlines, but she didn't know I was part of a special FAA task force that oversaw crew compliance. My badge didn't just open doors, it could end careers. But I hesitated. I wanted them to reveal just how deep their arrogance went before I brought the hammer down. So instead, I asked calmly, "Captain, would you like me to confirm my identity with the airline CEO right now? I have his direct line." His eyes flickered. Just for a second. Enough to tell me he didn't want that smoke. Still, he tried to hold his ground. "Sir, step aside. Final warning." That's when Naomi snapped. "Daniel, no. They're humiliating us. Do something." The tension broke like glass. The crew scrambled as a supervisor rushed in, clearly called by the gate staff. She was panting, her eyes darting between us and the captain. "Is there a problem here?" "Yes," Naomi barked. "The problem is your staff trying to keep us out of the seats we paid for." The supervisor scanned our tickets, then looked pale. "These are valid." She turned to the captain. "They belong here." The captain's lips tightened. "I'll have no disorder on my flight." It was then, finally, that I reached into my jacket. I pulled out the small black wallet with the silver badge inside. FAA. The supervisor's eyes widened. The crew froze. The captain actually took a step back. "I was willing to let this go," I said, my voice low but steady. "But you've crossed into illegal discrimination. And worse, you've attempted to deny lawful passengers access to their seats under false pretenses. Do you know what that means for your license, Captain?" The air was electric. Naomi's hand loosened from mine as she exhaled, relief flooding her face. Passengers leaned in, whispering, realizing something huge was happening. But just when I thought it was over, the captain smirked. "You think waving a badge scares me," he sneered. "You don't know who I am." And in that instant, I realized this wasn't just arrogance. This was war. The supervisor looked like she wanted to disappear. The crew shuffled nervously, and Naomi gripped my arm. "Daniel," she whispered, "don't let him twist this." But the captain doubled down. "This is my aircraft. My rules. And if you don't like it, you can leave. Badge or no badge." The gall. The sheer audacity of this man stunned me. But I knew something he didn't. The moment he said my rules, he sealed his fate. Because in aviation, it's never just the captain's rules. It's federal law. I hit record again and lifted my voice just enough so the nearest passengers could hear. "Ladies and gentlemen, please bear witness. The captain of this flight is openly defying FAA regulations by attempting to deny seating to valid passengers based on discriminatory bias." Gasps spread through the cabin. Phones came out. Screens lit up like fireflies. The captain's face drained of color. "Turn those off," he barked. But it was too late. Naomi, tears brimming in her eyes, whispered, "This is justice." Within minutes, airport security arrived, not to remove us, but to escort the captain off for questioning. The supervisor apologized profusely, her hands trembling as she bowed her head. "Sir, ma'am, please, sit in your seats. This never should have happened." As Naomi and I finally sank into those wide leather chairs, the cabin felt different. Every glance we received now carried shame, not superiority. Naomi leaned on my shoulder, whispering, "I wanted you to fight. You fought smarter." I kissed her forehead, my own anger softening into resolve. Sometimes the loudest fight is the one you win with quiet strength. Hours later, while sipping champagne at 30,000 feet, I thought about what had just unfolded. It wasn't just about us. It was about every person who's ever been told they don't belong. Every passenger humiliated because of assumptions. Every voice silenced by arrogance in a uniform. When we landed, I filed a formal report. The captain's license was suspended pending investigation. The airline issued a public apology. But more than that, our story spread. And I realized something powerful. Sometimes humiliation is the stage where justice writes its own victory. And if you're listening right now, maybe you've been in a place where people tried to strip your dignity, tried to tell you that you don't belong. Remember this, your worth isn't defined by their blindness. Stand tall. Speak truth. Because in the end, justice has a way of finding its wings.